guys, this is Melinda with the blog eatingbuckets.com. Happy May 1st. It's just a gorgeous sunny day here on Bainbridge Island. I'm joining you from our property. I want to talk with you about our garden and your garden. I want to talk with you about a couple things specifically. One, where you should be at now, what you can plant now, when to use starts or transplants and when to use seeds, and also just sort of the more philosophical questions of what are you gardening for? What is the experience that you are doing this for? Is it for living off the land? Is it for just the experience of getting a few things to grow? Are you a seasonal gardener who just wants some lettuces and some herbs to add flavor to your summer meals? All of which is great, cool, and completely okay. What our family is doing is a little bit on the larger scale, I would say. About, gosh, what was it? It would probably be about 7 or 8 years ago, I read Barbara Kingsolver's book, Animal Vegetable Miracle, in which she really detailed her family's goal to live locally and to grow most of their food or get most of their supplies from local means. I was really inspired by that. I was living in Seattle at the time. We had a toddler and a baby. I grew up on Bainbridge. I knew that there was sort of this magic out there waiting to be lived. And it took us a little while to finally find this farmhouse. We spent some time in a wonderful neighborhood first. And after being here for about 4.5 years, this place, our dream house, became available and we lucked out and we got it. And immediately I started gardening and really working toward this goal of making it possible to live entirely from the food that we grow or fish for, and aside from the essentials like olive oil and your oils, avocados, I can't grow those, nuts, flour, and wine, coffee, things that we're not going to attempt to grow here. But fruits and veggies and all of the things that you can make with those when you get creative in the kitchen is something that we have been so far pretty successful at. We're at our 4th year of it. So with that in mind, knowing that what we're attempting to do is on the larger scale, that's why I say that if you're not wanting to do something that big, that's cool and that's okay. Just growing something for the fun of it is worth it, because you're going to discover a feeling of ownership and creativity around what you produce in your kitchen, and more importantly, in many respects, food that just tastes so good and costs you so little that you'll probably get addicted. So in the mindset of starting small, starting where you are, I would like to suggest that you plant some of your favorite greens this season. So if you're on the new level of gardening, get some lettuce seeds in the ground. Don't do those from transplant. Lettuces by nature are a fragile vegetable, leaf-based, very tender. The root structures just, in my experience, and you may have a different experience in this, just don't tolerate being moved, as well as just putting your seeds in the ground and letting those root structures really establish and create a vibrant, healthy plant. With your herbs and your lettuces, your romaines, your butterhead, your crisphead, your arugula, your radicchio, your mixed salad greens, all of those fall into sort of the same category of partial sun veggies. So you don't want to put them in your warmest, hottest part of the yard. You want to save those for the heat lovers, which we'll talk about in a second. But for now, dedicate some partial shade space, 4 to 6 hours of sun a day, to a few lettuce seeds, kale, arugula, and herbs like your dill, your basil, parsley, and some of your fennel too. Those will sort of go to bolt much more quickly if they're in full sun. So start with those. You can get your carrots from seed and ground. Those also really don't handle transplanting well. Carrots, by their nature, are a root, and their goal is to just establish a really strong root from the beginning. So they don't do well with transplanting. You can still get your peas in the ground. Those like more sun. Same with your carrots. You want to get more sun with those. Peas you can still successfully plant until about June. And you can get your beans in the ground too. It's an exciting time. There are tons of peas and beans that will just offer so much variety to your ability to produce some awesome stuff in the kitchen. So if you have the space, try doing a few of those plants. Broccoli and cauliflower, those might be good ones to start from a transplant that you find at your store. Something local, something that's already sort of acclimated to this weather, is not sitting in a greenhouse at this point, is simply, out amongst the other plants on a shelf outside. Those would be great. Bring them out, set them in your garden for a little while, a couple days, get them acclimated to your garden space and your climate, and then plant them. Moving on to sort of what I find some of the more exciting planting opportunities that have been opening up now that the weather is so warm. It's unlikely that we'll have another frost. I wouldn't put it entirely past our region because it has happened, but it's unlikely. You can plant a salsa garden that will knock your socks off. And I discovered this last year, sort of in a bigger way. I'd had a salsa garden before, but nothing like what we were able to pull off last year. We had poblanos, we had Black Russian peppers, we had, Hungarian blacks, we had lipstick and bell peppers, all varieties. They grew beautifully. And we had, 500 tomatoes that came out of the garden. So along with the onions and the garlic that were growing, we could literally go down to the garden, pull a few things, and make just this killer salsa in about 5 minutes. So I want to encourage you to spend a little bit of time and energy and resources on finding some fantastic pepper and tomato starts at your gardening store. And you can plant those in containers in a really hot spot, like on your deck or your porch or by your house. If you're planting by your house, use a container or make sure that you're doing it in a raised bed. A lot of people like to find sort of nooks and crannies around their home and use the sort of the space that's underneath the gutters and the drainage areas. And I can't recommend that, especially in areas where we have older homes and lead paint and chemical runoff from your home that really can kind of settle into the areas around your house and end up in your food. So while you can absolutely utilize the heat that's created from the wall space of your home, just do so in raised beds or containers so that you are controlling what's in that soil. So back to what you can also plant in the warm weather, your zucchini, which maybe you don't love zucchini, but I'm hoping maybe I can help you love it. We use it in an amazing zucchini soup that I have a recipe for that I'll be sharing soon, that we freeze and use throughout the year, and it just tastes like a burst of summer. We also do a lot of zucchini zoodles or zucchini fresh pasta that the kids just go bonkers with Parmesan and olive oil and salt and pepper and butter and some fresh tomatoes. And they don't really think about the fact that they're eating an entire plate of veggies. So do some zucchini, plant those from seed. Find a space that's warm. They do like sun. Give them lots of water. They love water. Same with your cucumbers. Plant a few pickling cucumbers this year if you can manage it. Those also from seed. Do a pickling variety instead of a slicing variety. Those ones will grow, to sort of your standard pickle size. And you can scrub them up, you can slice them up and use them in your sandwiches, on your salads. You can grate them for a really incredible addition to, Vietnamese noodle bowls. You can do so many things with them, and in particular, you can pickle them. You don't have to be a canning genius or somebody comfortable with canning at all. You can make amazing refrigerator pickles that stay completely crispy, so full of flavor and spice, and they'll last 6 months in the fridge, and I'll show you how to do that too. So hopefully I've gotten you a little bit excited about some of the things that you can still plant. You've got plenty of time. You can also still plant potatoes. If you get a few seed potatoes in the ground now, in 10 to 12 weeks, you will have some potatoes that you can start harvesting, which incidentally is in time for maybe your famous potato salad on 4th of July. So be creative. Follow what you like. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to your neighbors necessarily, and friends. Open up a book of offerings and decide what you and your family enjoy eating and plant that, because you're going to love it. In terms of scale, if you are, for example, really looking at trying to do a larger scale garden, which I can completely understand. We just kind of dove into it and we went for it. Remember to plant continuously. You don't have to plant everything all at once. With your greens, for example, your hardy greens, you can go through those, you can harvest them, you can chop and freeze them, and you can continually plant more and more throughout the season and still have greens growing all the way into November in the Pacific Northwest, which is great. And last year we did that with our spinach, and I froze, I don't know, our entire butcher block was filled with fresh spinach. I think it would have been, 6 or 7 feet by 4 feet of spinach piled about 4 feet high, and chopped it up and froze it, and we used it in our soups and our casseroles, and stir fries. And sometimes we would just pull out this amazing spinach and fry it up in a little bit of olive oil, and just, it was so good. It's so much better than any of the other spinach that you're going to find at the store. And it costs pennies, really, when you start looking at the cost savings of being able to go out in your yard and find your very favorite food. Sort of like a packet of seeds is about $2.50 to $3.50, right? And you're going to get tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of food, enough to last you the year, depending on how much you eat and how many is in your family. So the cost savings there alone are huge. But just the variation that you can manage. You don't have to depend on what the store is carrying and what quality it's in. You can do that yourself. And that's really pretty cool, to start being so creative in your own life and in your own family, doing what you love. Back to this conversation, because I've had a few great questions about, sort of looking at our limited growing cycle. How can I ensure that I am going to have food in a short amount of time? And should I plant from transplants? For that, I've kind of given it some thought. If that's what you're comfortable with, by all means do that. Pick a local gardener or grower, support their work, sort of ride on the coattails of their success, and enjoy your garden. That's fantastic. Keep in mind sort of our cultural verbiage that we use when we're talking about, being deeply rooted or establishing our roots or feeling like a transplant, as maybe many of us have felt if we've moved to a new city and are feeling sort of out of our realm and out of sorts. So when you think about working with plants, they're really no different than us in a lot of ways. They have gotten acclimated to an environment that they were raised in. So whether that's a hothouse or a greenhouse or a climate maybe in Eastern Washington, for example, it's just going to take them some time to get used to your new space. And that's where, choosing the ones that the veggies that you're going to plant from seed and from start can actually be really, really helpful from the get-go. So pick the ones that you can plant from seed that really need to nurture a strong root structure from the beginning. Your lettuces, your kales, your herbs, your arugulas, and get those leafy greens in the ground and see how that goes. Definitely buy your peppers and your tomatoes from start, and consider doing that next year on your own in a little greenhouse that you can warm and sort of control for your own growing experience. So I hope this has been somewhat helpful to you. If you have any questions, please ask. I love hearing from people. I love questions. I love thinking about this. I love getting jazzed about it. And if you enjoy this very conversational video, which normally it's not going to be this conversational, I'll actually walk you around and do stuff with you. Please do like and subscribe to this channel on YouTube. We're getting up and running. Things are going to get even more action-based and kind of exciting, I hope, especially as things grow. And I'll be gathering things from the garden, taking it up into our farmhouse kitchen, cooking it up, and having a blast. And I would love to have you join us. So again, happy May 1st. Thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to talking with you again soon. Bye.